Hello and welcome to Asake Online. The program is On the Front Line, where we look at the COVID-19 pandemic and other related issues. My name is Nozipho Majola. On this program, we look at how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected youths in Zimbabwe. And in this regard, we speak to an individual who is passionate about young people and youth in his community. We speak to a social entrepreneur, the founder and CEO of MatLive Business Incubation Centre. His name is Nkosana Mazibisa. Welcome to the program.
A pleasant welcome to you all, listeners and viewers.
Before we get into the program, we want to look at how COVID-19 has affected the youth. Do kindly share what it is that you do in terms of the work that you do.
My line of work, I'm a social entrepreneur by calling, by design, by purpose. I focus on community programming and solving human problems. That's my skill, solving problems. Problem solving is a skill that I've developed out of curiosity. And I'm a passionate educationist. Much of my work evolves around schools, evolves around community development, where I envision a Zimbabwe that is relevant relevant educational infrastructures where young people can thrive and be able to explore the intersection between youth and innovation, hence the need to come up with a community-centered business incubation center. This is where I am, a MatLive Business Incubation Centre, which is located right in the townships, where we offer young people co-working space, we offer young people library facilities, we offer young people business and training facilities. So even during COVID-19, some activities of the hub are still continuing, as we have witnessed that schools are closed. So we have quite a number of young people who are writing examinations this year because schools have been closed. They don't have access to such facilities. But as MatLive Business Incubation Centre, we have done our level best to align with the health guidelines, making sure that when young people are coming for study guides, are coming into access digital tools, stuff like that, they're in a safe space. So during COVID-19, we're still operational to service a community gap that is existing prior and present and furthermore to come. So in a nutshell, that's what I do outside other related work. I'm also a member of the Njubelopela Constituency Development Committee, where I'm the Information Secretary. 2 weeks back, I was elected chairperson of a local task force committee to help capacitate local schools as they prepare to open on the 28th of September. So 10 schools within the constituency, I'm helping them to align to make sure that they're in a state of preparedness in terms of COVID-19 health guidelines. So in a nutshell, that's who I am, that's what I'm doing currently.
You're so passionate about youth, and therefore we want to talk about our youth and how COVID-19 has impacted them, and possibly speak about solutions as well to what our youth can get up to during such tough times. So it leads me to the question then to say, how has the COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown thereof affected youth in Zimbabwe?
The challenge with COVID-19 is that it is a global pandemic and it's a global crisis. One of its most impact is on education, the biggest impact in the history that we have experienced, not only in Zimbabwe, but all over the world. So it has affected close to 1.6 billion learners across the world. And remember, there were certain pre-existing inequalities that were there prior to COVID-19. Now with COVID-19, schools are closed, it's also exposing digital inequality. Those that are coming from privileged families are able to access, but those that are coming from the townships where our hub is located, they can't even access data because data is expensive, number one. Number two, COVID is also exposing intergenerational inequality. So kids are staying at home. The parent has to teach them, but the parent is not that literate when it comes to the present 21st century curriculum. So all those things are being exposed by COVID-19 pandemic. And also within that scope of vulnerability, we have young people. Remember, we have young people, 90% of them are not employed, they're in the informal sector, and their line of work is hand to mouth. So because of lockdown regulation and strict rules, they were not able to adjust. Number one. Number two, their source of livelihood was completely shattered. So thirdly, maybe as a social entrepreneur, one of the problems that I meet within the community, because we're right in the face of it, is much of young people have changed to alcohol abuse, drug abuse. I was really shocked yesterday when I was looking at the statistics within the constituency that more than a half of our students, examining students, some of them are now pregnant. So this tells you that beyond COVID-19, the girl child is vulnerable. The girl child is, chances are some will not go back to school, especially those from the rural setup. Some won't make it also to a proper conducive environment because they've been exposed to gender-based violence at home. And also the fact that young people haven't had anything meaningful to do for the past 6 to 9 months, they are turning to crime. I was following Zenzel's post last Friday when I was talking about the crime rate that has increased in Pumla South. I can bear testimony to that within my community as well, because those are things that are coming out because of effect of COVID-19, when people are literally boxed, they have nothing to do. Some of them were windy, and community omnibus are totally shut out. It's only the Zuko. So those are challenges that young people are facing. And some, they were supposed to at least graduate more from one level to another in terms of business. In my case, COVID-19 has affected me in a very powerful way. We had a program that we're starting called the Civitas Accelerator Program, where we're taking 15 young people from the age of 15 to 25, where they were supposed to undergo a 12-week training program on leadership, emotional intelligence, community development, also business pitch, human-centered design. But because of COVID-19, we ended up suspending type of programs because it also involved exchange visits, going to the industries, going to other provinces, so that they have first-hand experience and interaction. So it really affected us. The first weeks of the lockdown, the hub is always a center of attraction. Our membership exceeds 83 people. But because of lockdown, first few weeks, we really needed to adjust to find out how best can young people be able to access our tools, our programs, without them being exposed to this new pandemic. So hence we came up with what you call Wi-Fi aerials, where those that are high performing, high achieving individuals but coming from low income households, we're able to log them into our system. They are able to access internet. They are able to at least partake in digital learning so that they can progress. But my main worry is, how about those that are coming from more vulnerable households? It becomes a challenge to them because it's continuously building a gap. Then another challenge that I've experienced because I'm in the township is that COVID-19 has exposed the number of vulnerabilities within our social and economic structures, even in terms of service delivery. The fact that some households, they can't provide for themselves. It means they have nothing to eat. Hence, we came up with a program called Cognitive Empathy, which is driven by moral responsibility, where we're saying, because the hub is located in the townships, we can't avoid facing poverty. We can't avoid facing a destitution that is being experienced by young people. So we made sure that every month we participate in the food relief program through our partners. Some are from the US, some are from UK, some are from South Africa. We are able to bridge that gap, partake, at least give them food hampers for them to at least continue until they recover from COVID-19. Then another challenge that we're facing as COVID related is the issue of business seminars. The hub has so many programs like Day Let's Do Business, where on Valentine's Day we meet instead of talking about how much I love and stuff like that, we say couples, let's talk about equity, let's talk about income generation, because when you get home, when these issues matter. So we were preparing young people to think big beyond the have, love, but because of COVID-19, we did only one program. Beyond then, all those kind of restrictions to say we need to limit 50 people, we need to limit stuff like that. It means much of our programming that was human-to-human interaction, because we believe in human-to-human interaction, we suspended them. But nevertheless, one thing I like about COVID-19 is that it has given us, like I said, problem solving is one of my skills because of curiosity. COVID-19 has given us a new level, which we refer to the new normal, where we're able to come up with new skills, to adapt, look at the opportunities. How best can we do this? Hence, we came up with a live streaming program. Every weekend, churches, they come to the hub, they use the facility to at least engage with their congregates. Some are using the facility for discussion, some are using the facility for digital learning. So on its own, I'm also grateful for the shift from the comfort zone, for us moving outside the zone to at least readjust, relearn. I often say this to young people, out of chaos comes a new order. So the new order is, how do you define it? How do you adjust? The ability to adapt from the basis of a progressive society. So it's either you adapt or you remain stuck in the past, like others are saying, Matotano, amateacher vuli isikolo kazivule siweleni into the old normal. No, we're way past the old normal. We're moving into the future, and the future is digital. It's either you adjust or you don't adjust. But within that digital, there are so many gaps that the government has to intervene, intervention measures. One of them is making sure the availability of data. It's law for underserved communities, like stuff like that. Young people don't have access to all this because data is expensive. Second, the government must make sure that connectivity is not a privilege, but it's a right. So for us young people, especially those that are startups, they need data, they need connectivity. And the cost of connectivity in Zimbabwe, I think you know it very well, it's expensive. So those are very critical things that COVID-19 has shown us, that COVID-19 is continuously exposing, that we need to work hard on, and not only to expect the government of Zimbabwe, but also to engage as stakeholders, to engage also as social entrepreneurs, to engage also as leaders of communities, to say how best can we handle such a problem. Because 15 years from now, 20 years from now, all these young people, we have skipped an opportunity to be skilled and to earn a living will become a burden to the community. Remember, they don't have a social safety net. Imagine they're 65-year-old, they don't have pensions. Whom do they turn to? So we'll be sitting on a time bomb. In a nutshell, that's the way I perceive it.
Schools have been closed for a while, and let's look at the impact that this has. And even for exam classes who will start going to school soon, what has been the impact of COVID-19? Do you think they are properly prepared for the exams? Of course, they're going to learn a bit until December, but do you think this swift and switch is going to be smooth sailing and comfortable with thorough preparation prior to examinations?
I'd say challenge. Honestly speaking, that's a challenge because when schools are going to open on the 28th of November or September, they only have 2 months, which becomes a crash program. The chances of passing, yes, but the quality at the end of the day, it also affects our quality, which we're going to experience 5 to 10 years later, because it's a compromise scoreboard. Number one. Number two, for the past 6 months, kids haven't been learning. What are they doing? Like I said, some tend to alcohol, abuse and stuff like that. Those are now, traits that are now embedded and integrated in that will require more than a year or so to deal with in terms of counseling, to deal with in terms of new habits, in terms of realignment of the mind. Then in terms of state of preparedness, to be honestly with you, the fact that schools closed on the 30th of March, they haven't received any form of income. because schools are a form of revenue, is paying school fees, levies, stuff like that. So for the past 2 terms they've been closed and they don't have any revenues. Where do we expect them to get those kind of things? So that's when some of us stepped in, we came in, we are now leading community task force to make sure that the state of preparedness. Out of the schools I'm assisting within the constituents, only a limited number of them, less than 4. Actually, to be frank with you, there are only 2 within the whole constituency. That we proudly say we are almost equipped. You see, there are very few schools that I can say these ones are well equipped because of those challenges. Number 1, number 2, they don't have revenue streams. Number 3, sustainability. Some of them, they don't have projects that they were running throughout COVID-19 lockdown. So they're coming back to the community to say, how best as a community can we intervene and assist in terms of reopening? They need sanitizers, they need bar soaps, they need step gears for self-washing. They need, literally, it's almost similar to a hospital, save only for the beds, because the hospital will need beds. But the rest of the things that are needed for a functioning hospital in terms of cleanliness, schools need. And it calls forth for me and you as young people to intervene. It calls forth for you and me as a resident of the to intervene and say, how best, maybe I know someone who manufactures sanitizers can make a donation. Some manufacturers must. One thing I'm happy, actually, this one mentioned it, I'm grateful for the government of Zimbabwe. They've made sure, they're making sure that as schools open, kids are going to receive a mask. Yes, they may not have, but the fact that they're making an effort says a lot. So, Makwekwe cluster, Njube High, is showing masks for schools under Makwekwe cluster within the Mziliga district. A right step in righting the storm. So what it calls is what the government has done, we need to step in and as well. Remember, the government is us as well. We may have the disagreement in terms of the way we perceive things, but when it comes to health, when it comes to education, we put our heads together for the safety and for the best of the child. Then also, in terms of preparedness of the schools, yes, PT is, like I said, COVID-19 is exposing a lot of abilities in terms of resources, in terms of also numerations. As you are aware, there's a outcry within the civil public service. As teachers, they still need to be, cushioned. So during COVID-19, these things are coming out and schools are about to open. My prayer is that a teacher in the government, they will discuss, find, the missing link, make sure that at least the teachers are motivated to go to school, number 1, and all their health is a priority. Remember, when you go to a school and it's capacitated in terms of COVID-19, it also affects intellectual capacity to schools to deliver lessons. And remember, I need to mention is, in the normal, kids have to learn in small classes where there are 15 to 20. But in the township, one class you have 50 students. What do you do with others? Number 1. You see, 2, you avoid sitting. What do you do with that? So all these things are being COVID-19. Why? It's because we're in an economic upheaval in Zimbabwe that requires ownership to say, how do we deal with such problems collectively? So I think schools also in a fix. They are also, it's an opportunity to say, let's work on this.
We've ascertained that schools need to prepare for students who have adopted certain lifestyles, who probably have turned to alcohol and drugs, some who are pregnant as well. How can we sort of have a quick rehabilitation program that brings back their mind and might and everything and effort back to school in light of these new challenges? Because in any way, we have to move forward. 2020 can't just come and go, especially for these exam classes. They still need to go through with their examinations. So how best can we help them from family point of view to community level up to schools level, so that these young people can go back and still take back their future?
The most important thing is, like I said, is engagement. The most important thing is also stepping in as community leaders, stepping in as city leaders, stepping in as citizens. One good thing I like about schools have facilities such as counseling room. In our case, where I'm chairperson in Mawaba Primary School, we definitely made sure that we have a counseling room. Lucky for us, last year we won an award because of the facilities that, to say, whenever we have a crisis, be it a child coming from a disturbed home, a child is stressed, stuff like that, they have a room. So those are more important things: gender-based violence rooms, child-friendly units. Those already exist in schools, but what they need is capacitation. What they need is support. So I know we've got quite a number of active civil society organizations, wild, we have some ladies of Chuma, we have quite a lot of ladies in Bulawayo or NGOs. If they are listening or watching me, they'll need to step in. We find a way of assisting these schools, also in terms of counseling, in terms of referrals as well. One thing I'm happy is that our counseling is referrals to child care, child line, all those, and one thing is that schools don't exist in a vacuum. They exist in a community where they are stakeholders, such as therapy, such as child protection committees. All those need to be revised. Currently, they are undercapacitated because of the economy and also because of the COVID regulations, stuff like that. But I believe that we can step in and help in. Then also, another way of handling all this is maybe at community level, the need for help with watch community, because the level of crime and pettiness experiencing leaves a lot to be desired. So we need to step in, increase our security, and also the way we have strangers that we don't know in communities. Yes, that's the most important thing as well. And also another important one is distribution of IE material. It's easy to talk about COVID when it's far in Harare and stuff like that, but when schools are about to open, those kind of IEC material distributed within communities, distributed within schools, so that we conscientize and people religiously follow. Then also at community level, we need to come up with programs, after school programs. PT is that our youth centers, majority of them, they're dilapidated. We can still work around with that. Community active programs where young people can help post-school meet, discuss, programs such as digital training, digital exhibition, all those kind of programs which can keep them occupied and they're able to see the world beyond the nose, the world beyond the Noma Kokoba, the world beyond the Makwekwe. We can also do film screening, which are educational, can also expose them to new cultures, to new trends, what's taking, also to show them that there's life beyond COVID-19. Those are most important. Also organizing small, interactions via Zoom. I know Zoom sounds very alien to other people, but in my community, we're trying to level best to expose them to Zoom so that they can be able to interact with someone from China, stuff like that. That way, it keeps people, glued and focused. In my case, under the hub, we have a program which we call the Stargazing, where young people in the evening, right from 4 to 6 o'clock, they're able to come and watch stars using our equipment. From there, also intrigues curiosity. They start to ask questions. When they start to ask questions, it means they are learning. So those are one of our ways to keep young people motivated, to keep young people glued, for them to see the future beyond drug abuse, to see the future beyond, peer pressure. So in a nutshell, yeah, that's my perspective.
Let's talk about this other age that is not going back to school in the next week or so. That is over Form 3, 2, and all of these other children that are at primary school that really can't get access to your hub and other youth centers around the country. What do you suggest that they should occupy themselves with? That maybe they may not be going out or leaving home considering the restrictions, the movement restrictions. What activities can young people get up to at home?
The government stepped in that particular area. There is radio learning also on Skies and Kulman FM, where as parents we need to assist young staff, tune in, and they're able to listen, they're able to continue learning. That's one of the most important programs. Number two, those that are not going back, it's important that as a parent, I pick up, just family time a day, 30 minutes, 1 hour, it's enough to know that my kid is moving in terms of education. Pity is much of us as parents, guardians, spend much of our time looking for sustenance. You leave home, early morning, you've gone to town, come back late, so that time to bond, that time to engage. Then thirdly, going back to school, there's always WhatsApp groups. I'm happy that a local teacher added me to a local community WhatsApp group where all grade 6 are learning. They send lesson guides, we share with the kids, they learn. Those are a few intervention local measures that people are using to make sure that kids are entertained.
So obviously COVID-19 affected youth-led businesses, like you alluded to earlier on, to say most youth-led businesses are from hand to mouth, and so it affected their livelihoods and their families and the support systems that they are taking care of. Are there any alternatives that youths have turned to make a living? And also, has there been funding in that regard to help boost up youth-led businesses?
Yes, like I said earlier, that COVID is affecting a lot of things, especially the young people who form the mainstream of the population. A majority of them, their businesses were hustling. It was really affected. But I'm happy for the effort that was made by the government of Zimbabwe through the ministry, where there was a relief fund for young people. Yes, in as much as others were crying for too little, but little is much when there's something. So the youths were able to access the loan, access the fund. It was a loan, it was not a grant. It was not a loan or what, it was a grant to say you have been affected by COVID-19. This is what we as the government of Zimbabwe, we think we can assist with in terms of recovering and reopening. So it was 5,000 tickets, which was, by then it was good money. So much of young people managed to access it. I, for one, I also applied for it, access it, in order to put, our network for young. And also, moving forward, young people need to adjust. Our level of business has to be digital. Physical interaction is proven as that in business it won't work. So we need to move to virtual offices. We need to move forward into virtual platforms. We are able to transact without meeting while promoting social distancing. I, for one, were coming up with a new platform. I think in a few weeks or from now, you will be able to know much of our platform, where we realize because of COVID-19, much of the people are affected. So we're moving people from physical business action, taking them into virtual spaces. They can be able to meet, interact. It's business to business. It can be also business to customer. It can also be customer to customer, we're coming up with a quite number of programs, initiatives such as e-commerce. In a few weeks, you guys will know much about our e-commerce platforms, which will be disruptive across Africa, to come up with apps where at the end of the day, people will move from physical interaction because they've seen its weaknesses, to move into virtual, where you will be able to rent an office almost at the lowest price that you can ever think, and still able to engage in business virtually and be able to do business with people across Africa, in Ethiopia, in Egypt, because of our platform. So as an incubation center, we realized that, and we are working on that digital platform, which will also include e-commerce, apps, website. So we hope that the people will support that kind of initiative, so that we move from the informal and traditional way of doing business, virtual space, where much of activities take. By the way, virtual businesses are making, if you look at the stock price for using Zoom 2 months, its share price, actually its evaluation was more than 4 companies, aeroplane companies put together. I'm talking about Lufthansa, British Airways, Southwest Airlines. Those are the most expensive airlines in the world. But all of them put together, their evaluation was less than Zoom. Zoom, it reached more than $15 billion, but it's an online platform. So that tells you that the future is digital. The future is not physical, traditional, conventional. So in a nutshell, yes, that's what COVID-19 has taught us.
Thank you very much for that insightful conversation. Should you, who's watching this program at the moment, have any ideas in terms of how we can keep the young people and the youths away from drugs and alcohol abuse during this COVID-19 times, do let us know. Use the hashtag Asake, and you can share the program on all of your social media platforms.